In March 2026, a frontline position changed hands on the Ukrainian-Russian contact line. No Ukrainian soldier crossed the wire. No boots touched enemy soil. The operation was executed entirely by machines. Autonomous aerial drones neutralized Russian defensive positions. Ground robots advanced to secure the objective. Human commanders watched sensor feeds from kilometers away and issued no orders, because no orders were needed. For the first time in recorded military history, a territorial objective was seized by a fully autonomous robotic force. This is not a projection. This is not a simulation. This happened. And the global military order has not yet processed what it means. Because if a 40 million person country with a pre-war economy smaller than Portugal's can field a robot army capable of offensive territorial operations, every strategic assumption made since 1945 is now obsolete. The battlefield has changed. The question is whether the world's militaries and the world's governments have changed fast enough to survive what comes next. Ukraine entered this war at a structural disadvantage that should have been unsurvivable. Russia held a 5-to-1 manpower advantage in active duty forces. Russian artillery output in 2022 exceeded Ukrainian capacity by a factor of 10. The conventional calculus pointed to one outcome. Ukraine chose a different calculus entirely. Beginning in 2023, with the launch of the Brave One Defense Cluster, a government industry accelerator specifically designed to compress the development cycle for autonomous weapons, Ukraine began transforming its defense industrial base from a consumer of legacy hardware into a producer of next-generation autonomous systems. The logic was brutal and rational. Human soldiers are not infinitely replaceable. Autonomous systems are. The production line is the army. What emerged over the following 36 months was the most compressed military technological transformation in modern history. An economy under active siege, with degraded access to global markets, with critical infrastructure targeted daily by Russian missile strikes, managed to build an autonomous weapons industry from the ground up. An industry that, by early 2026, was outperforming every legacy military-industrial complex in the world on the metric that now matters most: autonomous systems produced per dollar of GDP. The implications for how we understand military power are foundational: population size, GDP, territory. The traditional variables of strategic power are being displaced by a new variable: industrial capacity for autonomous systems production and the software infrastructure to network them at scale. By the first quarter of 2026, Ukraine was producing more than 3 million drones annually. The projection for year-end: 7 million units. The cost structure is asymmetric in Ukraine's favor. A first-person view kamikaze drone costs between $150 and $300 to produce. The Russian armored vehicle it destroys costs between $1 and $4 million. At scale, this economic ratio is unsurvivable for the defending force. But production volume is only one dimension of this transformation. The decisive evolution is autonomy. Ukrainian AI targeting systems developed through the Brave network and the Delta Battlefield Management Platform now integrate computer vision algorithms trained on verified Russian military equipment profiles. Identification accuracy under daylight conditions exceeds 94%. Under nighttime or active electronic jamming conditions, the latest generation maintains accuracy above 88%. These are not laboratory numbers. These are combat-verified performance metrics from active engagements on the Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk fronts. The system can distinguish between a Russian T-72 variant and a Ukrainian T-64 at recognition ranges that precede human visual identification. This matters because the rules of engagement for autonomous target selection have effectively been decided by training data and inference architecture, not by command structure, not by international law, and not by human judgment in the moment of engagement. On the ground, Ukrainian terrestrial platforms, wheeled and tracked robotic systems equipped with sensor payloads and optionally lethal weapons systems have begun executing multi-stage mission sequences in communications-denied environments. They receive a target package. They navigate obstacles using onboard LiDAR and computer vision. They execute without further human input once the mission is initiated. The Pentagon's 2027 budget request captures the American strategic response. Autonomous weapons and systems funding rises from $226 million to $54 billion, a factor of 239 in a single budget cycle. That is not an incremental policy adjustment. That is a doctrinal emergency response to a technology shift that the American defense establishment did not anticipate at this speed. The first-order effect is arithmetic. By early 2026, 96% of Russian combat casualties on the Eastern Front were caused by drone systems. Not artillery. Not infantry engagement. Not armored assault. Drone strikes. Russian casualties from autonomous platforms in March 2026 alone exceeded total American losses across the entire Iraq War. That is the scale of the attrition being generated by industrial autonomous warfare. The second-order effects extend across every major military power simultaneously. China has had military observers and technical analysts monitoring this conflict since the first month of the invasion. The People's Liberation Army has restructured its Autonomous Systems Command in direct response to Ukrainian operational innovation. Beijing is accelerating development of naval drone swarms specifically engineered for Taiwan Strait operations, environments where electronic warfare degrades human-piloted drone effectiveness and where autonomous target engagement becomes not a capability, but a necessity. Russia, despite catastrophic losses, has scaled its own drone production to an estimated 5 million units per year. Simultaneously, Russian electronic warfare investment has surged, targeting the AI inference systems that drive Ukrainian autonomous targeting, triggering the recursive algorithmic arms race that now defines the technological core of this conflict. Each side is building systems to defeat the autonomous systems of the other. The escalation ladder no longer has human rungs. NATO's response has moved from conceptual to operational. Poland has launched a domestic autonomous weapons production program with a stated target of 1 million units per year by 2028. Estonia and Finland have integrated autonomous systems into their national defense frameworks as primary, not supplementary, capabilities. The European Union's Agile initiative, announced in April 2026, commits 47 billion euros to AI-enabled military systems through 2030, the largest coordinated military technology investment in EU history. The third-order effect, and the one that should most concern strategic analysts, is the legal vacuum in which all of this is occurring. No international treaty currently governs the deployment of fully autonomous lethal systems. The Geneva Conventions do not address algorithmic kill decisions. The United Nations Special Committee on Lethal Autonomous Weapons Systems has been in deliberation since 2014 with 0 binding agreements produced. Every major military power is exploiting that vacuum simultaneously, and the deployment rate is accelerating faster than any regulatory process can track. The trajectory of autonomous warfare over the next 5 years follows a logic that is now structurally difficult to interrupt. Within 18 months, the tactical and operational lessons from Ukraine will be embedded in Chinese doctrine for Taiwan contingency planning. The PLA has the industrial base, the AI research infrastructure, and the political authorization to deploy at a scale that dwarfs current Ukrainian production. Within 30 months, the United States Collaborative Combat Aircraft Program will deploy AI wingmen in operational squadrons alongside F-35s, the first generation of combat aircraft capable of receiving a mission order from a human commander and executing it to completion without further human input. Within 5 years, the defining metric of military competition will not be measured in soldiers, tanks, or fifth-generation aircraft. It will be measured in autonomous systems per square kilometer of contested operational space, and in the software architecture capable of networking those systems under full-spectrum electronic warfare at the edge of communications range. The nation that industrializes this capability first does not win a single battle. It wins the structural geography of the next era of conflict. Ukraine, without designing it, without planning it, without the resources that great powers take for granted, has already demonstrated the model. A state facing an adversary with overwhelming conventional advantages achieved battlefield parity, and in the autonomous domain, superiority. By industrializing autonomy faster than its opponent could adapt its doctrine. That is the intelligence dispatch from the Eastern Front. The war machines are running without human hands on the controls. The humans who built them are watching. And every government on Earth is now asking the same question: how many can we build, and how fast? If this analysis sharpens your intelligence picture, subscribe to KITETIK. New dispatches every week.